Hi, my name is Laura. I am a chiropractor and I practice at Berkhamsted Chiropractic Clinic. So as a chiropractor, our main focus is looking at the health of your spine and your nervous system, with a particular focus on posture and alignment of the body, and how dysfunction or imbalances here can lead to interference of the nervous system and therefore symptoms and dysfunction throughout your entire body. So we're looking to get your body into the best possible position to facilitate health of the nervous system and therefore you living your best pain-free life. Now, 9 times out of 10, what brings people through the door to see me isn't a one-off accident or injury or specific thing that's happened. 9 times out of 10, it tends to be this chronic build-up of stress and strain that we will accumulate from day-to-day life. Now, this might be too much sitting, leading sedentary lives, not enough exercise. And it might be sleeping positions, or the fact we're all a bit one-sided dominant, so we'll always carry a heavy bag on one shoulder or pick up a heavy item on one side and carry a child on one hip. And it's these subtle imbalances and misalignments that build up in our body and just over time can lead to issues. So imagine there's an inflammatory threshold up here. And over here, you're experiencing pain and stiffness, dysfunction. You're not moving as well as you should be. This has probably been building up over months, if not years, of these issues that I've described. And it will get to the stage where it's just so ready to go. It will take something really small that's just going to set it off into here. And over here, you're experiencing the symptoms. That's the pain, the dysfunction, the discomfort there. So what we want to do is look at the patterns, the imbalances, and things we can do to avoid it getting to this stage. But also if it does get to this stage, a few things we can do to get it back into a much more comfortable and well-functioning position. So what I wanted to come and talk on here about today was looking a little bit about something that a lot of you, I'm sure, have been in a position for the past year, and that is working from home. So looking at working from home setup, a few things we can do to optimize it to make sure we're looking after our bodies. And also a few things that if we do start to feel things going wrong, things getting achy and painful, a few things, tips that we can build into our day-to-day lives, but also a few stretches and things we can do just to make sure we're keeping aches and pains at bay. Perfect. So this last year with the pandemic, a lot of people have been thrown straight into working from home, firstly at quite short notice, but also that everyone thought it was going to be for quite a short amount of time. So the problem with this is very few people had a really adequate working from home setup, not the correct chair or the correct monitors, these kind of things. So a lot of people, and this is from what I've seen people coming through the door to see me in clinic, is a lot of people are now working at dining tables, kitchen tables, incorrect chairs, uncomfortable heights, working over a laptop all day. And from this, I've seen a huge influx of people coming to see me in clinic with very similar issues. So we've got a massive rise in neck stiffness, headaches, neck pain, and this really common posture where the shoulders will come forwards, the chin's jutting out, a lot of tightness in the back of the neck there, tightness in the chest, but also a massive increase in low back pain, tight hips, maybe some acute low back spasm, or even sciatica, which is that shooting or burning pain that goes down one or other of the legs, which is irritation of the sciatic nerve, and that tends to come from dysfunction in the lower part of the spine from maybe too much sitting or stress and strain there. So what I wanted to address is a few things that we can look at to make sure your working from home setup is adequate to try and ward off some of these common issues as well. So as humans, ideally, we're just not designed to sit at all. So this is what the big issue is here. So our predecessors back in the day, we would have been hunter-gatherers. So we would have been either stood, running, walking all the time, or to rest, we would have been lying flat or maybe resting in a deep squat position. We would never have been found at this 90-90 hips and knees position that we so commonly all are these days. Now, the problem with this position is a huge amount of stress and strain on the health of our discs. So throughout our spine, our vertebrae, we have each bone, which is a vertebra, and in between each bone, you have a disc. And this disc is here for cushioning and shock absorption and just keeping the bones nicely spaced apart so that the nerves that come out at every level have lots of room to move and exit, and therefore messages can flow up and down freely. Now, what happens when we sit over time is there is a huge amount of pressure squeezing down on these discs and therefore squeezing and causing inflammation on these nerves. The discs themselves don't actually have any blood supply to them. So in order to stay nice and thick and healthy and hydrated, they actually rely on movement of the body to push those fluids in, keep them nice and healthy and hydrated, which is then going to help protect the body. Now, you can imagine sitting for 8 hours a day, 5 days a week for however many weeks a year is just a huge amount of constant pressure squeezing down on these discs. Now, again, this is this build-up of constant pressure that happens over time. So these discs over the years, months and years, will dehydrate, they will decrease in height, and therefore the nerves are going to have a lot more pressure, irritation, and interference on them, causing to lead to symptoms and issues down the line. So ideally, if you can, standing desks or standing to work is the absolute optimal situation. Now, it doesn't have to be a really, really fancy setup. In clinic myself, we have the IKEA standing up and down desk that you can convert between the two. But obviously not everyone has the space or the finances to buy a new desk when they don't know they're going to be working from home for how long. So a couple of alternatives I would suggest to patients coming into clinic is either setting up your ironing board and building up your computer up with a couple of books or shoe boxes, which is going to raise your screen height, or alternatively even the kitchen counter, just building that up to make sure the screen's at the right height, but it's just breaking up your day and giving yourself some time on your feet as well. Alternatively, if you're just not in the right setup to be able to stand at all, in terms of sitting, maybe switching out a static chair for a large gym ball, you know, the ones they see in the gym. This can be really, really helpful. And the benefit of these balls is basically when you're on the ball, when you're sitting there, your core has to stay switched on the entire time to keep you balanced. Your pelvis is constantly shifting and moving and slightly bouncing, which is meaning we're getting this movement in our discs and our bodies, which is going to keep those discs in a much better state. And it's also just going to keep us much more mobile, so we're not sitting statically for so long. Also, they can be inflated, deflated, they're not in the way. So that's a really good investment, making sure you're getting a nice big one though, to make sure you're at the right height for your desk. Otherwise though, a lot of people just need to be at a chair, working away normally, none of this other stuff. If you can get a really good ergonomic desk chair, ideal. Otherwise, a few just simple tips to make sure when you're on your chair that it's at the right height. So when you're sitting on your chair, your hips and knees should never be less than 90 degrees. So you never want to have your knees up towards your chin. You don't want to have your feet tucked under you. And you want to make sure you're not crossing your knees, in case this is a really, really hard habit to shift. But basically when your knees are crossed, it's pulling your pelvis into rotation. You're sitting there for all those hours a day. Over time, that pelvis is going to start to rotate slightly and then lead to imbalances in weight distribution in your body. So making sure you're keeping your legs uncrossed. Now, in order to make this a bit easier, I always suggest maybe putting a small shoebox under your desk, just to rest your feet on, just slightly raise your feet there ahead of you. And that's just going to take away that need to constantly be shifting around and sitting on one side. So you want to keep yourself as neutral as possible, feet slightly raised if it feels more comfortable. In terms of your low back, if you're just on a static dining chair, something hard, you want to make sure you've got a bit of low back support. Now, you want to maybe get a small cushion or something like this, and you can just pop that behind you, but not at the very base of the chair. You want it to be in the curve of your lower back to support that curve, because we want that nice curve to stay in there and not round out the other way. So keeping that curve there, hips and knees at 90 degrees, keeping yourself upright. Now, when we're looking at in terms of the screen, the ideal situation is to have a standalone monitor that can be set up at the right height. However, a lot of us are working at laptops still and just don't have these provisions. If you do have a monitor, that's great, with a separate keyboard and mouse. With a laptop, we can alter things though to make sure it's at the correct setup. Now, a few general steps to follow to make sure it's at the right position. Screen height, so I've got my laptop here. So I've actually built mine up on a shoebox. Ideally, I want it to be slightly higher, so maybe a couple of shoe boxes or a couple of textbooks, whatever you've got lying around. If you stretch out your arm from where you're sitting, your tops of your fingertips should just touch the top of your screen, your monitor screen or your laptop screen. That shows that's the correct length away from your body. You also want to make sure it's the right height, so your eye level should be perfectly in line with the top of the screen. So that's going to mean you're not looking down at the screen all day if the laptop was down, and you're not looking up, straining your neck all day as well. So it has to be completely neutral as such, like this. Now, because we've now built it up, obviously that's going to mean that it's at a slightly different height to what is ideal for typing and moving the mouse around. So I really recommend investing in a separate mouse and keyboard. They're not expensive, you can get them online, but by getting these, that's going to help just mean you can have your hands working away at a better level, and your mouse is at a better level as well by keeping that screen at the right height. Same with hands and wrists. So when you're working, you want to make sure that your forearm is in line with your wrist. So you don't want to have it at an angle like this, which is going to strain the wrist, or you don't want to be working like this as well, which can lead to tightening through this part of your wrist here. So making sure that your shoulders are back and down and your wrist and mouse is within comfortable position. if you have water, if you have anything like that you want on your desk around you, a phone maybe, you want to make sure that is an easy reachable position to you, to make sure you're keeping yourself nice and neutral and straight all day. Phones is another big one as well. So a lot of people, if you're having to take phone calls throughout the day, the worst thing you can be doing is having your phone between your ear and your shoulder. That's causing a huge amount of strain on your neck there. So if you can, have it on hands-free, have some AirPods or something in your ear that's going to mean it's Bluetooth, or if that's not appropriate, even getting one of those wearable headsets, which means you can carry on working neutrally without having to alter and hold the phones in different positions as well. So that's really important. With all these things, we're just trying to keep the head as neutral as possible, keeping you as upright and as straight as possible. Now, what a lot of people have found that since they've been working from home, maybe not got the daily commute into London or walking around the office, is they're finding that their step count or their daily activity has dropped off massively. Now, this increase in sedentary lifestyle is going to have a massive toll on your body in terms of tightness and mobility as well, and the effect this will build up over time. So a couple of tips that I've been recommending to clients is just to make sure you're keeping moving throughout the day and trying to keep up to a minimum of 10,000 steps a day, which is going to really, really help the health of your spine and joints. Now, a lot of time without this daily commute, which is what people didn't even realise how much activity it built into their day. So what a lot of my clients have started doing is now, even if they're working from home and their commute is literally down the stairs to the kitchen table, we're building in a daily commute at the start and end of each day. So start work at 9, at 8:30, you're going to go out the door, you're going to do a 30-minute circular walk, end back at the desk, start work at 9 as you normally would do. You're going to work through till 5, 6 o'clock. 5, 6 o'clock, you shut your laptop, and again, you go out and you do that 30-minute walk again. That's going to just build in those 2 bits of exercise, but also it marks just a strong start and end to your day. A lot of people are finding they're coming in, and because they're at their laptop, they're at home, there's no clear start and end of the working day. They're ending up working all the hours right into the evening, and therefore even activity is even lower, they're feeling even tighter, even more stressed. So building in these daily commutes is a really good way of keeping the movement up and keeping a clear sort of routine in the day. Another thing is to make sure we're regularly taking breaks from sitting. I know it's difficult when we're getting ingrained in work and you're sort of focused and busy. However, making sure we're reminded to get up. It doesn't mean you have to completely break away from what you're doing or walk away from the computer if you're in the middle of something. But I always recommend having an alarm on your phone, so a beeper that goes off every 30 minutes. And that's all it has to be, every 30 minutes. And it's going to beep. And what that's going to do is going to just cause you to break away for 1 second. You're going to go through a few key stretches, which we will come on to in a bit. Quickly stretch up. You're going to have a quick stand up, walk around on the spot, get a bit of blood moving throughout your body, do a few maybe squats or something a little bit active that's just going to keep your body a little bit more fired up. And then from there, you can sit back down and focus and your posture is going to be much more reset. You can get straight back to work, which is going to stop this stress and strain building up in the body to the point where things are getting too tight. Now, 2 amazing bits of really inexpensive kit that I always recommend people investing in if you're going to be at home or you're trying to work on your posture and your alignments a little bit more is, firstly, number 1 is a foam roller. So they just look like this. You can get them at different lengths. You can either get the solid foam ones or these hollow ones that are a bit firmer, or even the ones that are really gnarly with the sort of bumps and raised bits on them. Doesn't matter which one. These are really, really great for working out tightness in muscles, adhesions in fascia of your body, and just really giving your body much more mobility, and which means it's going to be much more able to respond to day-to-day stress and strains. Now, you can get these on Amazon or just online. They're not expensive at all. You can get these ranging from £5 to £20-ish, depending on which one you want. Such a great bit of kit. Now, I tend to send people straight to YouTube because it's such a mecca of information about how to best use these. You can go on there, you can just search full body foam roller routine. If you're just trying to work on your legs, there'll be videos for that. If you're trying to loosen up your upper back or your chest, anywhere like that, there's going to be so much information on how to get the best from these. But again, really inexpensive, not big, you can keep it around the house, but to do a little bit of this every day is going to keep everything in such good state to avoid injuries. And next up is probably my favourite one, which is the easiest one to get hold of. So this is a lacrosse ball, which I always recommend is a little bit firmer, but it has got a bit of give in it as well. Otherwise, a tennis ball is perfect as well. We all tend to have one or the other lying around the house somewhere. Now this is really great at doing a bit of self muscle release when things start to tighten up. And these are great things to do when those aches and pains do start to creep in, and we can catch them before they take hold and cause further issues. So the main thing when we're trying to release off a particular muscle group, so for example, say I was trying to release off the back of my shoulder, all you're going to do is take your ball, put it into the muscle that you're trying to work on, pin it between you and the wall, lean into it there. You can put as much or as little pressure as you want. You're going to lean into it and you're just going to roll around. You'll find a particularly tight spot you want to work on. You can focus on there to 30 seconds to a minute, and then you can move on. This can be done throughout the shoulders, throughout the chest, at the front, either side of the spine, right from the top to the bottom. You can get it into the top of the neck there and roll around some of those tight muscles as well. Muscles around the hips into the glutes as well are really good to release off. Just anywhere that you feel that tightness in there. A really, really great bit of kit just to start loosening things off, take some stress and strain out of those areas, which is going to really ward off these things building up to where they get too much of a problem. So really great bit of kit as well to have at home. Have it on your desk, so when that 30-minute alarm's going off to remind you to move, you can build this into a quick stretching out routine, and that's going to make you feel much, much more comfortable throughout the whole day. So let's look at a few stretches that we can build into our day-to-day routine. So I've just moved myself, so I've got a little bit more space to show you. So we will start with the upper part of the body, and this is to counteract a really common postural issue we see called upper cross syndrome. So what happens in upper cross syndrome is this common posture where the chin juts forwards, the shoulders round forwards, and you end up like this. So the head's sticking far too far forwards for what it's supposed to. Now, an ideal posture, the midline of your ear should be over the midline of the shoulder, and that means the weight of the head is being supported by a natural curve in the neck. When the head comes forward, when you're looking down at laptops all day, looking at your phone screen, hunching over, this means all the weight of the head is now having to take by the base of your neck there, which means it leads to a lot of shoulder pain, it leads to tightening in the muscles at the top of the neck, which leads to headaches and dysfunction here. So we really want to keep an eye on this posture. Now what happens in this posture is we get, as I said, tightening through these muscles at the base of the head. We get a lot of tightening of these muscles in the shoulder, which causes these shoulders to rise up like such. And we also get tightening of these muscles in the chest here, which causes these shoulders to be pulled forwards and this hunched over appearance. So we're going to do 3 stretches for the upper body, which is going to really help combat this as well. So the first one we're going to look at is these muscles called the suboccipital muscles. So what we want to do is we can interlink our fingers on the base of our head as such, like this. And all you're going to do is you're going to use the hands to pull the head upwards while tucking the chin and giving yourself a bit of a double chin. You're just going to tuck and lift as such. You can tilt slightly each way and then relax. So again, pull upwards as you slightly give yourself a double chin and relax. You can hold that for 8 to 10 seconds and give a nice stretch there, relax off, and then take it a little bit further the next stretch. With all these stretches, they should never be painful. They should just feel like a nice gentle stretch. So if you're feeling like you're forcing it too far, you're going too far, they should just be a nice gentle stretch. Using your lacrosse ball or your tennis ball is a great way to get into these if you're finding that stretch isn't really hitting the spot as well. So literally feel along the base of your skull there, you'll feel those tight muscles there. Get the ball in your hand and just do a nice circular massage on those, or you can use your thumb and just give it a nice rub through there just to keep those nice and loose, which will help that chin come back. Next up, we're going to look at the muscles of our shoulder. This is called our upper trapezius muscle. So really common here, everyone ends up with their shoulders up around their ears when they're stressed and uptight and everything comes up like this. These muscles can refer pain that mimic headaches and pain down the arms into the shoulders as well. So to keep these loose is really important. So what we're going to do to stretch this out is we're going to pop one hand on our lower back like this, and that's just going to help keep the shoulder down and out of the way. Now we're going to be stretching this side, and then we're going to take the other hand, and all we're going to do is reach up and over and just rest it on our ear. Now the idea of using this hand isn't to pull the head down, it's purely just to help guide it over. We're going to just take the head over like this and just gently feel a stretch through the top of that shoulder. You should feel a really nice gentle stretch from the tip of your shoulder right up to your neck. Now again, you're going to hold that for 8 to 10 seconds. You're going to come out of that stretch, and then you can sink a little bit lower the next time. You can tilt your head down a bit towards the floor to get slightly different fibres, but again, just giving it a really nice loosen up through there. Do that on both sides. Try and build that in a few times a day as well. And last but not least, we're going to look at stretching out the chest here. So what we're going to do for this one, if you're sitting at a chair, great, or you can do it up against a wall, so I'll show you both. So to do it with a chair, you're just going to reach hands behind you and hold on to the bottom part of the chair, this one behind as well. Sit yourself to the front of the chair, and all you're going to do is just take those shoulders back and stretch forwards, really push the front of the body forwards, and you should feel a really nice opening stretch through the front of the chest here. You can twist one way or the other to slightly increase it, or just sink forwards if that feels better. So again, 8 to 10 seconds, come out of the stretch and then go back in. That's going to help open up the shoulders. Alternatively, if you've got a door frame or a wall nearby, if you pop the hand up on the door frame, elbow at about shoulder level, and then all you want to do is twist the top half of the body away and slightly forwards. And again, that's going to increase that angle at the front here and cause a really nice opening stretch through the chest. Again, that's going to help those shoulders come back. You've helped get those shoulders down, and you've helped get that chin slightly more tucked in and the head much more upright. So these should really combat the stress and strains from the upper body. So hopefully that's just given a small bit of insight today into how you can maybe adapt your working from home routine, a few key tips and stretches you can do when things start to feel like they're going wrong and get sore. Now obviously this is just scratching the surface on some things you can do. If you want to look at a bit more information or some more stretches, some more desk setup issues, I actually have an Instagram, so it's at Laura Sophie Chiro, and on there I have hundreds of videos basically looking at different desk stretches for the upper and lower body, and different stretches and activities you can do for different parts of the body as well. So definitely check those out. Also, if you think you just need a really good assessment, if you'd like to have someone look at your posture in a bit more detail, or any particular issues that you're struggling with at the moment, we are taking new clients at Berkhamsted Chiropractic Clinic, so you can either get in touch with me on Instagram or contact the clinic there directly, and we can do a full posture analysis. We can look at your individual needs and build up a program from there. Hope this was helpful. As I say, I'm on Instagram, so if anyone's got any questions or concerns, please feel free to message me and we'll go from there. Thank you.